Alright, how's it going, guys? I'm back today with another video, this time a response video, so it's something a bit different for me. This is a response to a video created by Wandering Souls Webzine, otherwise known as Mark. And the way I found out about this particular video thread was through my friend Gordon, who runs the channel, the Blackened Hymns channel. So definitely check out both of those channels, they're really good. Gordon just told me a little bit about it and I watched his video. It looked really interesting, a great idea. And then I saw Mark's also a really great video and I thought that looks like something different and something really fun to do. So it inspired me to make a response video of my own. So here we are. So just to tell you about it, it's called Scream For Me VC. What the conditions of entry are is that you need to show albums which are related to the word Scream. So Scream can appear in the band name, the album title, in a song title, or even the cover artwork. So the theme is Scream, basically. So, and it can cover any genre, any format. Just to let you know, a lot of these releases I do have on vinyl, but I'm just showing them on CD today because it's quicker. And as it happens, I have quite a few to talk about. On that note, many I've already spoken about, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I'm just going to stick with the theme and just go through these one by one. So hopefully you find something interesting, see something different for you. There are some overlaps, but you'll see for yourself. Okay, so coming to the first album of the day. This is Accept with Metalheart. So the reason I chose this one is because it contains a song called Screaming for a Love Bite. Incidentally, Mark also chose this album for the same reason, and I think really good choice because Accept are one of my all-time favorite bands, classic German heavy metal from the 80s, brilliant. This is my favorite album by them. The song Screaming for a Love Bite, that's a little bit different to the rest of the songs on the album because it's more melodic, it's got a kind of Van Halen feeling, but the guitar solo on that song is just an eargasm, it's brilliant. As I've mentioned, if you want to see a more detailed review of this album, I've done one in an earlier video, so you can watch that for yourself. So anyway, Accept, Screaming for a Love Bite from Metalheart. Okay, up next, Anthrax with State of Euphoria. And sorry about the glare, it's annoying that I have to take this out every time. So the reason I chose this one is just because of the album cover art, you know, so Expression of Euphoria, you could construe that as a scream, I think that's close enough. Screaming with Euphoria. So anyway, very underrated thrash metal album. A lot of people don't like this one, but it has nostalgic value to me, and some of the songs on it are my favorites, like Out of Sight, Out of Mind, Now It's Dark, Be All End All, brilliant thrash metal album. Okay? So what's next? Okay, moving to some death metal now. This is another cover art which contains a scream. This is Avulsed with Yearning for the Grotesque. So I've spoken about this band in a previous video. Volstar are a death metal band from Spain, brutal old school death metal. So if you like that kind of stuff with really growly, bear-like vocals, it's excellent stuff. You can see a more detailed review in one of my previous videos, but yeah, nice cover art. I think it's really iconic and I would definitely say that's a scream. Okay. Okay, shifting gears once again to another genre. We have Black Flag with My War. So why did I choose this one? The reason is, this album contains a song called Scream. So, yeah, you've got 9 tracks on this album. I've also reviewed this album, and I said I like about half of this album, like the first 5 out of the 9 tracks are really good, and then I said I find, well, track 6 is annoying, and I find the last 3 tracks boring. Scream is actually one of those tracks. I listened to it again this morning. It's not that bad actually, but certainly not one of my favorites, but it's kind of where the band slows down. It's a punk band, but they're sort of inspired by Black Sabbath. Having said that, no offense, these last 3 songs on this album I don't think are anywhere near as interesting as Black Sabbath. But anyway, the song Scream, you know, the Henry Rollins really screams a lot in that, and I think the key lyric in that song is, I'm gonna act like a baby and I'm gonna scream into your ear. So very in theme with today's video. Okay, alright, coming up next to some more death metal. Bloodbath with Breeding Death. So the reason I chose this album is you can see with that artwork some horrified screaming figures on the front. I really like this artwork, by the way. As for the music, it's just old school Swedish death metal, so a band which is sort of harkening back to the late 80s and early 90s death metal bands. I've also reviewed this album in a previous video, so I'll link that up as well. But anyway, that's Bloodbath with Breathing Death. Okay. Oh, I've got a shitload to talk about, so I'm moving through these as fast as I can. Okay. Up next, Blood Feast with chopped, sliced and diced. So you can see here, the reason I've chosen this one, the cover artwork features a screaming zombie, and I think that's really cool. Blood Feast are sort of old school death thrash, like sort of from the era when thrash metal was evolving into death metal, but just really hyper, massively energetic and really cool. So I really like this band. So that's Blood Feast with chopped, sliced and diced. All right. Next, another cover art featuring a scream. This is a band and an album that I've spoken about ad nauseum, so I don't need to go into too much detail again. This is Broken Hope with Repulsive Conception. So, as you know, I've spoken about this band a lot on this channel. Old school death metal from the US, and that's the reason, screaming face on the front. Okay, so again, you can check out my old reviews if you want to know more about this album. Okay, now coming up next is another band that I've just spoken about. I haven't actually uploaded this video yet, but you will see it before this one. Burzon, the self-titled album. The first track on it is called Feeble Screams from Forests Unknown. Very dark, atmospheric track with screamy vocals as well. So, Feeble Screams from Forests Unknown from Burzon's self-titled album. Okay, up next, some more black metal. Oh, and this cover's broken. Okay. This is Dark Funeral with Atira Totus Sanctus. So, you see there, the reason I've chosen this one, because of the screaming demonic figure on the front. Yep, so I will say this, Dark Funeral are one of my favorite black metal bands. Like they've always been a staple band that I've listened to over the years. Having said that, incidentally, this is my least favorite full-length album by them. So, is it bad? No, but it just doesn't grab me as much as the others. There are some, like 2 or 3 really good tracks, but yeah, it just doesn't compare with the other albums. One day I'm going to do a ranking discographies of Dark Funeral, and I'll say more about that. So, Dark Funeral with Atira Totus Sanctus. Okay. What's next? More screaming in the artwork for this one. An album which is legendary and needs no introduction. Dark Throne with Transylvanian Hunger. So you see the screaming figure on the front. I believe that's Fenris. If you've seen the When the Light Takes Us black metal documentary, you'll recall that there was a Norwegian artist, I think, was he Norwegian or Swedish, but he put on a black metal art exhibition with all this photography, and he made an interesting comment actually that this album cover is so iconic that there are some references to the painting by the Norwegian painter Edvard Munch. He painted that famous picture, The Scream. You'll actually notice from my channel, that's the channel icon. So, The Scream. And I think maybe he's not far off on that. There's some sort of iconic reference, I think, to the Norwegian artwork by Munch. So, anyway, classic raw black metal album which inspired so many bands. Dark Throne with Transylvanian Hunger. Okay. Coming up next, shifting gears again to something completely different. You might think this is different for me. Def Leppard with Hysteria. So the reason I chose this one is because of the screaming faces on the front there. No, this was one of the bands which was a gateway band for me, which got me into heavy music when I was about 10 years old. And to be honest, I still really like this band. Just a timeless classic band. And this album in particular is probably their best. So Def Leppard with Hysteria. Okay. So coming up next, this is one that a few people have spoken about, and I'm not going to be excluded. How can you exclude it? Judas Priest with Screaming for Vengeance. So I think, you know, that's got to go in there, hasn't it? So that's the album name. There's also the title track, Screaming for Vengeance, one of Judas Priest's most famous tracks of classic heavy metal, and it also starts with a good scream, and the chorus, you know, the screaming. So very much in theme with this video. Classic album, and incidentally, probably my favorite Judas Priest album. What's yours? Okay. Okay. I'm getting through this faster than I thought, which is good, considering the number of CDs I have. Alright, up next, moving to some Swedish death metal. This is Murder Squad with Ravenous Murderous. So the reason I've chosen this one, you can see here there's a figure stabbing himself in the eye and screaming on the front. This is classic old school Swedish death metal, but it's very interesting. It's like a supergroup. It features 2 members of Dismember, so Matti Kaki and Rickard Kazeba, and from Entombed, Ulf Söderlund and Peter Stjärnvind. And so it's a Swedish band, but they're paying tribute to Autopsy. So think about that. 2 legendary classic Swedish death metal bands performing in the vein of Autopsy. You can't go wrong. This album came out in 2001, and there was another one which I've also got because I think people should know more about this band. The debut was called Unsane, Insane and Mentally Deranged. This one, I'm not sure if you could say there's screaming people on this one, but I'm just bringing it to people's attention. These were the only 2 albums they released, so it's sort of like a side project, I think, but both really good. It's nothing technical or complex, it's just that brutal old school death metal with that haunting vibe. It's really good. Yeah, so that's Murder Squad with Ravenous Murderous. But very good underrated death metal band. I love this band. I've listened to them since the early 2000s actually, but unfortunately they didn't release anything after this. By the way, about this one, Ravenous Murderous, so it was made by the guys from Entombed and Dismember, but Chris Reifert from Autopsy, he actually flew to Sweden and he was a guest on this album. He wrote some lyrics and also performed some vocals, so some spoken word parts and stuff, so definitely in sync with the Autopsy vibe. Okay. Alright, so up next, this is one band actually with the name Scream in it, and I'm sure most people haven't heard of this. Okay. So this is an Australian band. This is Scream Feeder with Burn Out Your Name. So if you're not familiar, probably not, Scream Feeder are like an indie alternative band from Brisbane, Australia. I got into them in my teen years and I was really struck by them because they're a band that sound like no other, truly unique. Yeah, it's like indie alternative music. It's gritty, but it's melodic. The vocals are unique, and I just think they're a really incredibly underrated band. They did enjoy some moderate success in the alternative charts in Australia in the 90s, and then recently they got back together, released another album, which is also really good. But if you like, I know most people are more into metal and extreme metal, but if you like alternative and indie music as well, as I do sometimes, check out this band. So that's Scream Feeder with Burn Out Your Name. And just showing some other albums here. So Scream Feeder with Felicitator, which is a really good EP. And Scream Feeder with Kitten Licks. So Kitten Licks I don't like as much as the older albums, but it still has some really good songs. I've also got some other albums by this band on vinyl, but I'm just trying to make it quick today, so don't want to take up too much of your time. But yeah, Scream Feeder from Australia. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, so up next, moving to some more death metal. Mark, you might know this one, being Dutch. This is Severe Torture with Misanthropic Carnage. So as you can imagine, it's a brutal death metal band from the Netherlands, and the reason I chose this, you can see here, screaming faces on the front. Okay, that's a pretty full-on artwork. Yeah. So, what does this band sound like? It's very brutal old school death metal, and this album in particular is influenced a lot, I think, by Cannibal Corpse's Tomb of the Mutilated, so especially the vocals and the drum sound. So fans of Tomb of the Mutilated, check this album out if you haven't heard it. That's Severe Torture with Misanthropic Carnage. Okay, and that's it, guys. I know I chose quite a few albums there, but I just thought something fun to do because, like with the metal tag, it sort of cast the net wide on the collection. So I wanted to talk about a few bands. Like I said, some of them I've already spoken about. You can watch those videos. Other ones I'm going to talk about more later, but yeah, that is my Scream For Me VC response video. So thanks Gordon for referring me to this. Thanks Mark for making it, and I hope you found something new and I hope you enjoyed this video. Okay, thanks again for watching. I hope you comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care guys. Bye.